Looking at the pictures that we just saw on the screen, my dad was actually in World War II also. He was a photographer in World War II. And I've been thinking a lot about home recently. I have two little kids at home. I have a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old. And I was thinking, wouldn't it be interesting if you go up to your great-grandparents' attic and find a book that showed you not what your great-grandparents' home looked like, but what they did at home? What was it like at home before electricity, before televisions, before telephones? What did people do at night? What sort of rituals, what ceremonies did they have? How did people turn their houses into their homes 100 years ago? My daughter, Phoebe, is 7 years old, and she went on her first sleepover a couple months ago, and she was very nervous about it, and spent 2 days figuring out which teddy bear and which doll she was going to take. And we escorted her 2 doors down from our house to the same girl that she plays with after school every day, and she was very nervous about this experience. And I picked her up the next day, and she actually survived. And she was very excited that she'd survived. And I said, what was the most memorable thing that happened to you? Because I know how excited you were before you went. And she said, Papa, Charlotte's mother let us eat Cheerios for dinner. I said, oh my God, don't tell your mother this. We'll be in big trouble if she finds out. And she says, Papa, do you remember your first sleepover? And I never thought about this since I was 7 years old. And I said, you know, Phoebe, I just remembered. Yeah, I had a sleepover with this little boy named Tommy down the street. And she said, well, what was the most memorable experience? You know, what do you remember? And I said, you know, I never thought about this. I said, I remember sitting down to dinner, and I had a fork of meatloaf I was about to stick in my mouth, and I looked around, and the whole family had closed their eyes, and they were holding hands, and they were praying. And first of all, I was totally embarrassed, because here I was about to chow down. And I remember being shocked, not that they were praying, excuse me, but it was the first time I had that realization that not everyone's life is the same, that everyone's life is different, that people have different rituals and ceremonies in their homes. And I started thinking, gosh, wouldn't it be interesting if you could invite, you know, now that all of us, you know, there's 1.5 billion people on the planet now that carry some variation, a cell phone with a camera in it. So just the way that 10 years ago, none of us could have anticipated how our lives have been impacted by the internet. I mean, if you think of the number of times a day the internet touches your life, it's quite extraordinary. 10 years ago, I don't think anybody would have ever imagined how the world's changed. So what does it mean if we all have, if we can record and share our lives in real time with our families and friends and with the public, what does that mean? So I started thinking, what if we could do a project where in the course of a week, we would invite millions of people to stop at the same time of day and photograph some aspect, some component of life relating to home. So what you're looking at right here, we came up with a project which took place last week for 7 days. We hired 100 of the world's best photographers in the United States, and we gave them all specific assignments. Someone said, since this whole thing had been your daughter's idea, why don't you photograph 7-year-olds all over the United States? And I said, you know what would be really interesting? Why don't we show a 7-year-old in both of her bedrooms? Because her parents are divorced. I mean, we're trying to sort of this is not a Hallmark card about life in America. It's a book about what actual life is like. One day was dinner time in your home, all the different things you do at dinner time. Anyway, the idea was we invited people to participate. We went to a friend of ours at Google, and Google put an announcement on the front page of the landing page of Google Images. Those of you who have ever been to Google Images, they've never done this before. Snapfish invited 35 million of their customers to participate. IKEA, we always go to these sponsors. IKEA is one of our other sponsors, invited 2 million people. So we had a tremendous number of people that took time during the week. I just want to show you a couple of pictures real quick. We are actually doing the exact same project right now in the UK, so it's actually taking place this week. So there's 2 completely different projects. I'm just going to show you a couple of pictures that have come in so far. We don't even start editing until next week, so we haven't even seen most of the pictures. This is a 102-year-old woman who's living with her 80-year-old daughter up in Vermont. You know, the next picture. This guy raises guide dogs in his home, so every 4 months, he and his family fall in love with these dogs and then have to give them up. This is really sort of heartbreaking. Next picture. Just, you know, the thing that we ask our photographers to do is to sort of make extraordinary pictures of ordinary, everyday events. And just little moments like this, I think 100 years from now will be really interesting to people. Go to the next picture. It's in New Orleans. again, this is not at all representative of what's going to be in the book when we're done. We're going to be doing a book and a TV show and an exhibit, but it's just sort of fun, this whole idea of citizen journalism, where we're involving professional journalists together with the public. I'm really interested in this because it's a different way of looking at what life is actually like. You can go to the next picture. I think there's one more after this. This is homeschooling. So anyway, if any of you are friends in the UK, the project's going through Sunday night. Paul McCartney's daughter is one of our photographers, which is one of the most interesting things of the project. And we've been just very fortunate to be doing projects like this that I hope 100 years from now will be a lot more interesting than they are today. Thanks very much.